we all have to be honest with ourselves, right? So what are our values? What is important for us? It's, during a lifetime, it's important maybe for some that to earn money, right? And probably for everyone, but maybe you make certain cuts, right? In terms of what is super important to you, what is not. But if these things are really, really important to you, then, also take ownership, right? And look for a place where they celebrate it or live it more. Instead of, I think we also sometimes need to get out of the complaining, but taking action and also responsibility, not only as leaders for an organization, but also as employees, right?
Hi everyone, and welcome back to the HR Leaders podcast. On today's episode, I'm joined by Felizitas Lichtenberg, who's a global head of diversity and inclusion at SumUp. During the episode, Felicitas shares how SumUp linked their diversity, inclusion, and ESG strategies to support education for unemployed youth and minority groups. She also shares the biggest challenges facing diversity and inclusion in the workplace and a top piece of advice for DEI leaders entering the role for the first time. As always, before we jump into the video, make sure you hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and follow on your favorite podcast platform. That being said, let's jump in. Felicitas, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you, Chris. I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. I can't believe that the last time we spoke, it felt like you just started in the role and now it's already been 2 years. How you been?
Great. I know time flies. It's incredible. I still also cannot believe it. But yeah, the 2 years here at SumUp have been great. Many more exciting things ahead. So very looking forward to the future as well.
Amazing. For people that may not be aware of SumUp, tell them a little bit more about the organization and also your role.
So SumUp is a fintech company. We're pretty much worldwide. We help small merchants thrive, setting up their business. You might have seen those little white devices where you can pay contactless in a coffee shop, for example. So this is what we do. We provide card readers, but we also help with an online shop, online payments, QR code invoicing, and so on and so forth. We're about over 3,000 SumUppers now worldwide.
SumUppers, I love it.
Yes, we are. Team SumUp. And yeah, so my role is I'm the global head of diversity and inclusion at SumUp and also working on the ESG sustainability topics.
Yeah. And I suppose on that point, the ESG and sustainability, that's connected very clearly with the company's mission and purpose. What was the inspiration behind targeting this key demographic? As an organization, there's many companies that do similar things that you do, but you have a very specific focus on this area. What was the story behind that?
Yeah, so what we thought at SumUp is, of course, we have diversity, and it's the right thing to do. We want to drive it further within SumUp, but also we want to have a bigger impact in our ecosystem. So looking at minoritized groups, unemployed youth, entrepreneurs that need help to thrive. So these are kind of the things that were behind. So if we actually then merge those, we can have a bigger impact in the society through education for minoritized groups, for unemployed youth in Latin America, in India, for example. And so on and so forth. So I think merging those, the aim is to actually increase our impact in the society.
Yeah, I love that because it must be really refreshing for you as a DEI leader to come into an organization with this at its core already.
I like it a lot. So it's our purpose, of course, and then we can double down on our efforts. And what I really appreciate about SumUp, of course, we are not perfect, but it's a very empowering culture and atmosphere. So people trust you. You can drive the things you want to do if you believe in them, and if you get, of course, the buy-in. But it's a very empowering and refreshing experience.
Well, what's your personal story? How did you come to becoming a DEI leader? How did that? I'm sure this role probably didn't exist when you when either of us came into the workplace. So tell me that story of how you came to being in this role and in doing this work.
Great question, Chris. And actually, when you asked me this question, I must reflect. I also, not often reflect on the own journey so much, right? So it's a very personal journey. I grew up as mixed race person in Germany. Nowadays, probably everything or many countries, many cities the population is very mixed race. But back then, actually, was not so much the case after the whole history. So I'm half German, half Indonesian, Chinese. My father was Indonesian. Often people think my mother is Asian, right? But I grew up there. And when I was 6, my father went back to Indonesia. And I think if I wanted to see him, I had to go there. My mom, highest respect and love for my mom, because she really helped us to see our father then. But we always, so started to travel back and forth to Indonesia when we were very young. So I think this already, played a part in me. So where do I belong? Being mixed race, I belong, of course, to Germany, but then I got the feedback that I don't belong, right? And then being in Indonesia, it's also was a bit different. So I think until, some years ago, of course now, but not super many years ago, I really reflected on my own journey and, on my personal self. And then when I did study abroad in America and France and England, and I was always, I felt always to be in this, like minoritized groups. I, for some reason, always put myself in those positions, probably also situations. And then when I started my career actually as IT consultant, I did commercial marketing at a telecommunication company, and then entered by coincidence a little bit the D&I world. I think looking back now, it was always my purpose, my passion, my mission. I knew I wanted to do something like that. But back then, as you said, 10, 15 years ago, this role didn't exist, right? So when I was a commercial marketing manager, I then started to become an intercultural business trainer. So I, took my money, took my holidays and time off did this education. I then became a organizational change manager, and also I did some psychology. So it's called systemic transactional analysis.
Oh, wow.
Which like 2-3 years. It's a complicated word. But this really, really, I loved a lot, and helped me then not only to find out more about myself, but also then led me to this role, to the D&I role. And since then, I have been in it.
So what was the first role? How did you transition to that first role? Did you go from not having any experience to straight into a head of D&I role? Like, how did that work?
Yes, not straight to the head of one, but I was actually in commercial marketing. I was in a company. I was like, okay, that's it. After 3 years, been there, done that. I need, a change. But then this role got available, the diversity role, and that's maybe also some advice or maybe a thought for the listeners. Actually, my mentor, he was not officially my mentor, but a little bit my mentor. So he knew I was, interested in this learning development area and culture and, the whole diversity topic. So then he reached out to me actually and said, by the way, the role is going to be available. So I think you should apply for it. And for me, I was like, I'm not so sure. I think, I'm good. I need to take a break. I want to go to the beach, dance outside, work in a little bar, a cafe at the beach. I really saw myself there. But then I reflected on it, and I knew this is my role. I need, this is completely my role. So I stepped from marketing to the D&I role, first the local role for Germany, and then I got, let's say, promoted to the global role. So my last role was, I was the global lead for diversity and inclusion at Vodafone Group, and now I'm the global head of diversity at SumUp.
No, I love asking that question. Like you said, how often do we get a time to really reflect on our past and how that's shaped us and our journey to where we are now? Like, honestly, when I went to a leadership retreat and it was around purpose and leading with purpose and understanding your why. And I discovered from having conversations with those other leaders that I'm already living it. And there was a lot of clear signs along my journey here that were very clear that I didn't even see, but others could see. They're like, Chris, can't you see when you did that? That's what led you here. And I was like, oh. So I realized I'm already doing it. I'm already living my purpose. And, even though it's not in the same, when I grew up, I wanted to be an artist, right? And in many ways, that's what I do. I create content. It's in a different media, but I'm still using my creative and the areas that I'm really passionate around, but I'm creating in a different medium to deliver value to the global community. And I was like, okay, so I am still using my creative muscles, and it's just in a different way as well. And it's delivering impact in a different way. So yeah, super interesting. So like what are some of the ways that you're giving back to society then? I know obviously for you, the education piece for unemployment, youth, minoritized groups, super important. What are some of the things that you're doing?
Yes, so we are collaborating with an NGO that focuses on Java full stack development for unemployed youth in, globally, but we started off in Brazil. Now we're going to roll it out in Latin America. And actually, according to their data, 80% will find then a job afterwards. So it's Java full stack. We focus especially also on girls, right? Because we know that that's a big challenge. We will have an even probably bigger gap because how we teach people, our education system,
that's amazing.
It hasn't really been so inclusive so far, but so we look at also girls, LGBTQ plus, and so on and so forth to give them a chance. But we also, what we mentioned, we work with schools in the favelas together in Brazil, and some other organizations there. So to have direct impact, it's just a little drops, right, on a hot stone, but at least I think we are doing something, and it's very purposeful, very rewarding. It's just also the right thing to do. We collaborate with an NGO called Dharma Life in India. We're financing a tech platform and have reached over 4,000 kids in rural India now already. We want to double down our efforts there as well to distribute content, right? English, math, hygiene topics and tech topics as well. So that's something on the whole education piece that we are working on. And also one thing I'm quite passionate about is looking at different dimensions, right? So women and girls, of course, is one thing. LGBTQ plus is the other thing. So I'm quite happy to say that we have about 1% transgender representation at SumUp, 20% about LGBTQ plus overall. But of course, we know that some countries like Bulgaria, right, it's not so common to speak about this topic, and the representation is not very visible yet overall in the society. So what we did this year, we invited company leaders or industry leaders to join our roundtable with our co-founder. This was very powerful, and of course, also could join the conference to speak about this in the society. So educating, right, the wider society, that's something we are very passionate about, and what we can do more, even looking at our merchants, of course, to help them or offer them, right? We're not there yet, but that's the plan for next
Love that.
year.
No, I love it. And do you use, for example, some of those work that you do with NGOs as like a pipeline for yourselves, a talent pipeline?
So ideally, yes, we have already as well. So one pilot that we did that the people graduated this year in March, I think it was. We actually hired from that group as well. And of course, we need to balance out a little bit, right? So because how many. So for us, the main thing is giving back to the society, and great if they, we can hire them and they become
it's like an additional benefit.
But if not, and they go somewhere else, also great, right? So,
no, I get it.
At least like giving back, helping them thrive, no matter at SumUp or outside SumUp, we don't really mind, as long as they can thrive, and also, as long as especially people from minoritized groups, from underprivileged background, get some more support from us.
But I think regardless, you benefit, right? Because both internally, people are proud to work at SumUp. They're proud to work for an organization that does that gives back, right? And also, especially when people are looking at companies they want to go and work for, when they see the amazing work you're doing in these communities, again, they're like, this is aligned with my why and my purpose, and that's the type of company that I want to work for. Like, how are you communicating all this work internally? What's working best?
So to be honest, at SumUp also, we want to be quite humble, right? So we don't want to speak about it and brag about it.
Really, no, it's not about bragging though. You should talk about it.
No, I know. But we do speak about it, but not so much. I think we can do better, let's say. Okay. Or also saying, I haven't done a fantastic job in communicating it broadly, but I think we first want to do it. We want to increase or have impact, and then we're happy to speak about it.
Of course.
So, we have a global all hands, for example, where we speak about all projects, and also I invited people from then India, for example, and Brazil, the participants, to speak and share more about their experience, about their benefits, and so on. But yes, I agree. So, or let's say I say we can probably communicate better.
But you're living it up first, right? Like we discussed before we went live, if you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it. One of the things that you said about trying to, you shouldn't have to force companies or leaders on this journey. You either want to be on a journey or you don't. But I love what you said about we want to actually deliver first. It isn't about, as you said, just communicating it, talking about it. It's actually the actions. Actions speak louder than words, right? We've heard that saying before.
Yes, I 100% agree. And often, right, sometimes I think the actions are not very authentic because, you know, you communicate before, you get recognized, awarded, you know, you get all the praise, but then actually if you look behind the scene or behind the curtain, then you see either, you know, if it's working or not. And sometimes you don't see it because it's hidden. But yeah, for us, it's very important to get things done first and then speak about it, and then also include others on our journey and also learn from others, right? So we are also constantly learning, and that is what we like to do or want to do. And what you said exactly, so back then, you know, when I started the journey, I thought I need to convince everyone, and, you know, every company needs to drive D&I, and of course, ideally, yes. But we spoke about it before, Chris, right? So after, I don't know, how many years have we been speaking about diversity inclusion now? And if the leadership of the company still hasn't understood or bought in, then I think what's just important, be transparent, be honest, right? Be authentic. And then the people can decide whether they like to stay there or go somewhere else. I think that is really important to get out of this kind of.
They're trying to tick the box, right? Like they want to be like, they want to communicate to for their brand, for their customers, for their stakeholders that they are doing something, but they're just ticking a box. There's nothing really behind it. Right.
Or also asking, can you please do it? No, I mean, either they're convinced and they do it by now, or they still haven't understood it. And then maybe it's not the best company if you appreciate diversity.
Yeah, well, those people leave anyway, right? Listen, I speak to so many chief diversity officers and employees that join those companies, and they leave just as fast. So you can sell the dream and say everything, but when the people come in, they will very quickly realize whether that is the truth. You know.
Yes, and I think we all have to be honest with ourselves, right? So what are our values? What is important for us? It's, you know, during a lifetime, it's important maybe for some that to earn money, right? And probably for everyone, but, you know, maybe you make certain cuts, right? In terms of what is super important to you, what is not. But if these things are really, really important to you, then, you know, also take ownership, right? And look for a place where they celebrate it or live it more. Instead of, you know, I think we also sometimes need to get out of the complaining, but taking action and also responsibility, not only as leaders for an organization, but also as employees, right?
That's true.
Being employed.
Yeah, I'm with you. What would you say, you've been doing this for a while now in so many different companies, what would you say is right now are the main challenges facing diversity and inclusion in the workplace?
Very good question. So I think a couple of things to consider here. So as DE&I leader, I think endurance is one of the big topics, because of course, we need to repeat, right? You need to start from the beginning again and again, same conversations over a long time, patience, and of course, you know, conviction, and also, of course, influencing others to then buy into this if they haven't understood it yet, which is also possible if they have never been confronted with that topic before, right? So create a safe space to learn from each other, with each other. And I think that is a super important thing, and also a constant, let's say.
I never really thought about that, to be honest, because you're right. So you've always got a new flow of organizations coming into the business, new leaders coming into the business. So that conversation needs to be constantly evolving and happening, and a big part of your role to your success, like you said, is influencing. Is that something you knew going in, that would be so important, your influencing skills?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was a little bit aware of it, but it is, of course, to a broader scale, right? Because you do need to influence pretty much everyone for various parts. And, you know, Chris, I think also one thing that is important to mention is that we are all biased, of course, right? We all are brought up in a certain way, no matter if you're white, black, you know, yellow, or like Asian, whatever you want to call it, man, woman, non-binary, you know, TQI. So we are all biased, and our families are all biased, and the way we brought up, and, you know, it is, again, we need to create a safe space where we can share different experiences, and we're protected to make mistakes as well, to some extent, because we will all make mistakes. I oppose, unfortunately, microaggressions, right? You will do so, others will do so, no matter which background. So I think it's important to be able to have a safe space to then learn from each other, and also reflect on our own biases, our own upbringing, what are our drivers in life, you know, when are we okay, let's say, with each other or with ourselves. Yeah, but it's a whole psychology topic here.
No, I get it. Well, talking about psychology, you mentioned earlier about talking about the psychology behind okay positions. Could you elaborate on that for a little bit for everyone? Because it was new for me.
Yeah, so I mean, if you imagine like 4 quadrants, right? And in one quadrant, then there's this I'm not okay, you're not okay kind of position. Yeah, bear with me. I go through it, and then so no matter what we do, I never appreciate myself, but I also never appreciate you, for example. Then there's one quadrant that where I say, okay, I'm okay, you're okay, so I appreciate myself, I respect and appreciate you as well. That's the other quadrant. Then the third one could be I'm not okay, but you're okay, for example, right? So I make myself down all the time, but I admire the way you are, and I find you very inspiring. You are the great, the way that I would love to be, but I'm not, basically. Or the one where I say, no, I'm the good one and you're the bad one, right? But sometimes, so I'm maybe potentially disrespectful to whatever you say, right? I don't like the way you are, but I pretend I like the way I am. It's the right way, no matter which gender I have, or, orientation or identity. But sometimes actually below that, it's a deep feeling of being insecure, actually not feeling okay, but I'm protecting it, right? So I pretend I'm
we all do that at certain points, right?
So I think this also plays a big role, right, in how we communicate with each other, especially if we communicate with people that are very different to us. And maybe, we have all our lives learned, oh, that person is not okay, or people from these backgrounds are not okay, right? So we need to make we need to learn, educate ourselves, but also make new experiences. And reflect also, right, on our behaviors.
So when would you use that quadrant in like a one-to-one, or sort of training in managers and leaders?
Yeah, it depends. So sometimes in one-on-one conversations, or when I have a group and I feel that the conversation is not very constructive, for example, right? Or if I feel that there's some lack of appreciation happening,
sure.
So then I sometimes give them the idea or the concept. I put it on the wall, and then let them reflect on where they are at the moment, and when they communicate to someone, in which quadrant they are, or the other person might be.
Yeah, that's a great way of positioning it, right? Because then you can figure out, okay, this is where we are right now, objectively. Because sometimes you don't really know. You've put a label on it, right? And this is the kind of how we can now proceed. And here's some language, some questions, points that we can make to progress the conversation. Yes. Yeah.
And can I just give one other example?
Sure, yeah.
Because last week I was in Brazil, and we had a session on diversity and inclusion and mental health. And actually, there was a very powerful story that people shared, from being LGBTQ+, for example, being not accepted by one of the parents, and having suicidal thoughts even, right, to someone that is from the Black community, and that actually got abused at home by the stepfather, right? And it was all then focusing on creating awareness that we all go through different, challenges in life, some more probably, right, more heavy than others. But we all do to some extent, and sometimes the way we behave or communicate has nothing to do with, for example, what you say to me and I react in a certain way, but maybe I am protecting myself because of past experiences, right? So actually a leader came to me afterwards and said, Felizitas, thank you. I mean, this was very powerful, because that person was in my team back then, and I always gave the feedback, why are you so closed? You're not very a team player and so on. But now, of course, I understand, and I'll apologize, right? So it's just being also sensitive and aware of what I do or I say has sometimes nothing to do with how you react, right? But it's the whole how many years of our lives that shape us, and that we just need to be kind to each other.
It's so important, right? Because there's so many examples where someone's acting a particular way, and you could take it as, oh, they just don't care. But it's maybe a defense mechanism of way they're protecting themselves, right? If I open up too much, then I leave myself vulnerable. Could be an example, right? And someone who's been hurt in the past, they've been vulnerable, and someone's taken advantage of that. Okay, from now on, I'm going to protect myself by just not being vulnerable and not opening up, not letting someone get close to me. And that does affect everything in the workplace. It transitions over. Similar with me, my challenge with anxiety and panic attacks and my mental health issues. Before, I would just be quiet, and the team would not come and speak to me because they think, oh, Chris is in a bad mood. today. So let me not go to Chris today. He's in a bad mood, but I was struggling that day. I felt a bit anxious, a bit overwhelmed. And rather than communicating that, my team took it as Chris doesn't care. He doesn't, he's angry today. Whereas it wasn't. I was actually needed help. I needed support as well. So if you create a workplace where people can have those conversations and be vulnerable, we can all kind of see each other from a different viewpoint.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing, Chris. I also didn't know that about you. And also it's not about, a company or leader, of course we're not therapists, right? And we cannot rescue those people or give them and we can listen and then refer them, right? Or give them recommendations. It's okay not to be okay. And it's okay, you can reach out to this, therapist, for example, to get more guidance on it and so on. So just being a supporting network, then of course psychologist or so. But I think it's super important.
What you've built multiple DE&I organizations in businesses. What would be your top advice for your HR colleagues who are coming into an organization and building a DE&I function from scratch? What are the top, say, 3 things they need to focus their time on? Listen
to people, conduct focus groups, for example, and understand the data. So that's the understanding around it, right? Listen to them and look at the data that you have. Is that
pulse surveys you mean? Like, what do you mean by data?
It can be, can be surveys, can be focus groups, can be the data that you have in your systems, looking at the female share representation, for example.
Sure.
We actually once a year run a DE&I survey where we actually measure ethnicity, LGBTQ plus representation, and so on and so forth, which of course is sensitive across the markets, but we managed to do so. So the whole understand the insights, the people, the data around it. Then I think the whole pillar of education, right? And, among this or below this can come e-learning journey, inclusive leadership workshops, webinars around LGBTQ plus, racism at work, neurodiversity, domestic violence and abuse, and so on. That's what we did, right, throughout the year, basically. Creating that. But of course, it's also then impact, right? And then leadership buy-in, leadership support. We have active networks and we have leadership sponsors that, are there to listen, but also our founders and our CEOs of the countries, they actually take time and have what we call drop-in sessions for the networks to come and share their point of view. So I think that is something. And then, of course, clear commitments, right, that we need. So probably these are the 3.
Looking back, what would you have done differently? Looking back.
Very nice question, Chris. I need to look back for that to think about it.
I don't want to remember it anymore.
I think looking back, what would I have done different? I mean, let me put it two ways, if it's okay. So first in my life or in my career, and then as
great.
a DE&I
Amazing.
leader, right? Mm-hmm. I think looking back in my career, trust myself more, like believe in myself and trust myself more. It really helped me to look for a mentor, right? And have this kind of supporting network myself, but also saying no. So I always thought I need to please others, because of certain things that play in my mind and in myself. But I think it's okay also to leave an organization. It's okay to leave a bad manager if they're toxic or if they're not, encouraging, not supporting. I always thought I need to try hard. I need to please others. I need to show that I can do it. And I didn't know that there are different options out there, right? That this is maybe not the norm. So this is something I think I made bad experiences early on in my career, which also have shaped me. Which of course is great to understand, but. I think this is what I would have done different, to leave if I don't feel well under certain leadership. That's the one thing or 2 things in my career. In my DE&I role, I think also you might see I have a strong drive to please others, but I think also it's okay not to please others, right? Or it's okay if also people don't like you, or it's okay if
you can't please everyone.
It's okay not to please anyone. So I always thought I need to do everything for everyone, but you don't. And that's I think
I've heard that from quite a few DE&I leaders.
Yeah,
because you're really trying to please everyone, right? And it's impossible.
It's impossible, and also not helpful, because there might be groups or leaders or whatever it is that have the potential to drive things forward, right? But there are many or some that don't, and then sometimes those are the ones who always complain, and but you can do whatever you want to it, you will never
you never win them over.
You will never win them. Mm-hmm. And either they get out of their vicious circle or they're not, but then leave them and focus on those that give you, help you drive the things, have energy, have the potential to drive things. This would be.
And sometimes, let's be honest, sometimes the best result is for them to move on, and that's in their best interest, and it's also for you. And that's a positive thing.
Yes.
Because the last thing you want to do is try to, constantly be trying to get them on board. They're rejecting you. There's frustration there, and it's just not good for anyone. Not for good for them, the business, their teams, as well. And I know that's an ongoing battle in your role that never ends. Listen, before I let you go, what would be your sort of parting piece of advice to new DI leaders that are just kind of stepping into the role for the first time? And then where can people connect with you? And then we'll say goodbye.
Mm-hmm. Super. Great question as well. Actually, recently, some people reached out to me with that question, because they asked, or they shared there's an opportunity in the D&I field, but they feel insecure. They feel not ready for it yet. They don't know how to get it or what to do there. And my advice is, you're never ready, and also you're always learning. So don't think you have to be the perfect D&I leader. Nobody is perfect, and nobody ever will be perfect. And we are all learning. If you really want to do it, just go for it and try it out, and be patient with yourself and also with others, right? So I think that is something, we are all biased, we are all learning, nobody's perfect, and just follow your passion.
Mm-hmm. We said before the call, didn't we, as well, it's important to also give yourself grace. As well, which is an important one if you're going to survive.
Yes, be kind to yourself.
Be kind to yourself, to others. Yes. Listen, well, look, thanks so much for coming on. Where can people reach out? LinkedIn, is that the best place?
Yes, perfect. LinkedIn would be great. Felicitas Lichtenberg you can find me under that name, and looking forward to connecting to all of you. And
amazing.
Thank you so much, Chris. I always love speaking to you, and thank you for having me.
No, I'm really happy for you. Honestly, I remember when you first joined and we had our conversation, and you had you've come so far in just the last 2 years. I'm proud for you and the team. Keep up the amazing work, and I look forward to doing it again soon, but I wish you all the best.
Yes, let's go. Let's do this.
Thanks.
Same for you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.